Welcome into a very special episode of the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton and Wassman. Dalton, not talking about college football specifically today. We're doing our first mock draft for the 2025 NFL Draft. We're 5 weeks into the college football season. We're 4 weeks into the NFL season. We've only done one mock draft for 2025. That was directly after the 2024 NFL Draft. What was that, 6 months ago now? So a lot has changed since then. So I'm excited to go through a full first round with you with the current draft order as it stands. Of course, this comes out on Friday, so this will be after Thursday Night Football. So obviously the draft order will shift a little bit, but this is what the current draft order looks like right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's going to be a lot of fun. We've seen some excellent performances from some of the biggest names in college football this year. Some breakout guys. We've got kind of some mystery with the quarterback class and how that's going to go. And we'll see how much has changed since our post 2024 mock for this year's class. It's the second one we've done, and I'm sure we'll see it's going to look a lot different than we had it back then.
So let's pull up the PFF mock draft simulator right now, which you can find at pff.com. And by the way, you could do a full 5-round mock draft if you were a sicko and wanted to do that, because Trevor Sikkema has updated his big board. I believe the top 200 now is in the PFF mock draft simulator, so you can check out his big board and draft for your team up to 5 rounds. Again, check it out, pff.com. The mock draft simulator is the best mock draft simulator on the planet. You could trade players, you could trade picks, you could do whatever you want, be fully immersed as a GM of your team. So what we're going to do in this mock draft, Dawn, I'm going to take the odds picks, you're going to take the evens picks, and of course our producer Eli will be handling the Cincinnati Bengals, his favorite team, at number 4 overall. Eli, yikes. So he's going to be picking number 4 overall for the Bengals. I'm going to start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are currently the only winless team in the NFL. And my number 1 overall pick, to me, is going to be Travis Hunter. I think, obviously, you have your quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And Travis Hunter, to me, has been the best player in college football this year. I think he deserves to win the Heisman Trophy as of right now because of how rare he is on both sides of the ball. And I don't think he'll be a full-time starter on both sides of the ball in the NFL, but you'd be foolish not to play him, at least, on both sides. So what I think Jacksonville should do, who also Jacksonville could use help at cornerback this year. So I think what they should do is start him full-time at corner and then also have him play a good amount at receiver. Not a full-time starter, but a good amount. And I think, honestly, he could be the number 2 receiver behind Brian Thomas Jr., who's been really good this year for Jacksonville. So I think he fits a big need at corner for Jacksonville, and also he could play as a receiver for them. So I think Travis Hunter Jr., to me, was pretty clearly the number 1 overall pick here.
Yeah, he's the best football player in the country right now. When you talk about his abilities to be elite on both sides of the ball, he's 9th in the nation among cornerbacks in coverage grade right now. Actually, 9th in receiving grade among receivers and 5th among corners in coverage grade. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you're one or the other of those things, you're going to be a first-round pick. But to get a guy who is both of those in one body, look, I would give him the full 2-way shot. He's shown he can do it so far as long as he stays healthy. If he stays healthy the rest of this year, Colorado's going a long way with that. But, I mean, Hunter, you have to take it. He's just the best, most talented football player in the country right now.
So, Dalton, we were debating for you what the number 2 overall pick should be. Are you going to stick with your original pick, or will you go with more of the consensus pick here?
This was so hard. This was actually a lot harder. I know you guys were telling me it's obvious, but my mind first went to Mason Graham, because the Dolphins have struggled just as much on defense this year as they have on offense. And I think, look, they need foundational pieces in the trenches on both sides of the ball. But after some arguing about it, I'll switch to the offensive side.
You can go with him if you want.
I just, the one part that does concern me, I don't think we see Teron Armstead in Miami after this year. And he continues to get hurt. He's getting older, and we've seen their offensive line without Teron Armstead, without that primetime left tackle. So I'm going to go in that direction. And I think your 2 choices here are those first 2 guys you see on the board, Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. Yes, pass protection's at a premium. Yes, Tua Tagovailoa with the concussions and the injuries, it's a problem. But I think you do have 2 really good pass protectors here. We know what Will Campbell can do, but I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks Jr.
Okay.
I think the ability the run block ability and the zone run blocking ability that he has shown in this Texas offense, I think Mike McDaniel sees Kelvin Banks in a similar vein, honestly, to Trent Williams with the zone blocking. The pass protection is obviously very good. He's very familiar with this type of scheme down there at Texas with Steve Sarkisian. I think these two guys are a very equal talent, and I think his scheme fit has them leaning towards Kelvin Banks. I'm going to go there, and the Dolphins take a new franchise left tackle. You guys sold me on the offensive line angle of this because I was very close to taking Mason Graham with this pick.
I understand, and honestly, I think Kelvin Banks has outplayed Will Campbell this year. We actually saw Kelvin Banks in person at the in Ann Arbor in the Michigan game against a really good Michigan defensive line, and he was one of the best players on the field. So Campbell has had some struggles. He didn't play great in that South Carolina game. We'll see how he does the rest of the year. There's still plenty of time for him to overtake Banks as OT1, but I think as of right now, I would have Banks as OT1. Was there any debate for you taking a quarterback there at number 2 overall with all of Tua's injury history?
I can't do it unless we know there's some decision made that Tua's done or not going to play. I can't do it with the gray area like that because they just paid him, right? And he's got the big contract, and if he continues to play, then that's suddenly a wasted, in this scenario, 2nd overall pick. I just couldn't do it unless we got some sort of confirmation on which way that's going.
Sure. So I think what I'm going to do here, Trevor Sickham actually in his mock draft, check it out at pff.com, he just came out with it. He actually had Jalen Moreau going to the Dolphins at number 2 overall. So he actually did take a quarterback there. But I'm going to take, for the Patriots here at number 3, I think it's pretty obvious what they need. Really, Trevor and Connor have been saying this on NFL Stock Exchange, but check them out as well. They've been saying the reason why Drake May is not playing is because they don't have an offensive line that can protect him, and they don't want to throw him out there to the wolves, basically, with that offensive line. I mean, right now, New England this year has the 3rd worst pass blocking grade and the 4th worst run blocking grade in the entire NFL. And with Kelvin Banks Jr. off the board here, I think Will Campbell is right there for the taking. I think they have to take Will Campbell. I think it's a must pick for New England this year. They have to take an offensive tackle with their 1st round pick, in my opinion. So I think Will Campbell is a pretty obvious one here. And like I said, I still think he's very, very close to Kelvin Banks Jr. I think either one of them is a pretty clear OT1, OT2 in this draft. I think there's a pretty clear gap between those two and everyone else at offensive tackle in this draft. So I think New England has to take an offensive tackle just to help out Drake May, who presumably will be the starting quarterback next season, and maybe will be at some point this year as well. They definitely need to take an offensive tackle. I think Will Campbell is a home run pick for them here.
Yeah, you know what's funny is this feels like the most obvious match between player and team in this entire process, right? And we know the Patriots are going to be picking in the top 5 in all likelihood. Last year there was some obvious picks, right? The Cardinals taking Marvin Harrison, the Giants taking Malik Neighbors was kind of obvious. You know, I thought another one like Seattle with Byron Murphy. I thought sometimes you just get a certain player and a certain team that makes so much sense. And Will Campbell of the Patriots, I think we're going to see this mocked all the way through April, and it very well could happen.
Definitely. So Eli, you are up here with a number 4 overall pick. First of all, are you shocked that you're number 4 overall a month into the season right now?
I would definitely say shocked is the right word. I mean, we all knew the defense was going to take a step back. They lost a lot of key pieces over the last 2 years, but the extent to which they have taken a step back is probably nobody expected this. I mean, you had Dalton on the NFL show with I think a 12-win season for the Bengals, and I think Trevor was at 14. So kind of a shocker all across the landscape in the NFL, just seeing the Bengals in the top 5 right now.
So who are you going to go with here? I think it's a pretty obvious player that is staring you in the face here at number 4 overall. Now that Dalton didn't take him, are you going to take him here at number 4?
Yeah, definitely an easy pick. This is a run it up. You take Mason Graham here. The defensive line has been a huge problem. And I think Mason Graham fills that hole perfectly. I mean, currently right now, the Bengals are 32nd in the NFL with a 53.7 pass rush grade. Now, I know his grade here isn't great so far to 2024, but he has that juice. You saw it in 2023. If the Bengals are this bad, this is the player you have to be this bad for. He's a kind of guy who can change your defensive line and the future of it. So Mason Graham, easy pick.
Love it. Yeah, Mason Graham, I think that's probably the easiest pick of the entire draft, honestly. I think
it's why you guys talked me out of him at 2, because just so Eli can
get it, Mason Graham. He already pre-ordered the Mason Graham jersey in Fanatics.
You guys make it way too obvious when you're working against me. I know how this goes.
While I did want him there, I think it just makes too much sense for the Dolphins to go offense at 2. I mean, either way,
yeah.
I think you're right. There's so many issues on the Dolphins, especially defensively, but just considering the Tua caveat, whether or not they move off him, if you're probably going offense no matter what, because either you're taking a quarterback, depending on what happens with him, or you need to protect him. It's been such an issue his entire career, especially given the injuries. Yep. And you have 2 basically generational tackle prospects. I think it'd be silly for the Dolphins not to go offensive line.
I'm completely with that as well. Yeah, so Mason Graham, number 4 overall pick to Cincinnati, another AFC North team here in the top 5. That is the Cleveland Browns. I'm kind of lost what to do right now because
it's a trade down spot is what
there's
it is.
A trade down spot. they need a quarterback, but they are handcuffed to Deshaun Watson for probably at least the next 2 seasons. So quarterback's an option here. Do they go Tetra or McMillan? I know Amari Cooper, there's talks about him maybe not being there long-term either. And they have Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. And right now, even with Amari Cooper this year, Browns have the 4th worst receiving grade in the league. I don't know. I want to pull the room here. Would you guys take a quarterback or receiver here, or what would you do?
I think either of those is a good option. Actually, to be honest, if one of those 2 tackles were on the board, I think
that's what
I
probably would have done.
Great option.
Yeah.
This is tough, and even a Mason Graham. Honestly, the Browns, the D line is good, but I think it's better on the edges than it is in the interior. It's decent in the interior. There's a lot of ways you could go here, but I think offensively, you have to find some sort of solution. So the question is if you just ride it out with Watson for at least 1 more year with I think it's 2 more guaranteed years on the contract, or if you just start speeding up that clock and you kind of do what Denver did with Russell Wilson and just eat it and find whichever way that goes. But they've got a lot of issues right now, especially offensively. So this scenario where you don't get either of the tackles is tough.
Yeah. I don't know. Let me put a bug in your ear, Max. Right now, the Browns are the 28th ranked receiving grade in the NFL, with a 59.8 receiving grade.
It's not
pretty much Amari Cooper.
That wouldn't be
and
a
lot of
nothing.
Either.
Yeah.
And also, am I wrong here? Amari Cooper there's a lot of rumors with him not being there long term.
Yeah, I know there's some stuff of him being upset.
I wouldn't be shocked if he got traded in the next month.
See, that's the thing is I would like a quarterback here because I do think this is a developmental quarterback class. There's not a lot of guys I would trust to start out there week 1. So I think Cleveland's in a spot where they pretty much have to start Deshaun Watson with how much money he's making, and then you could bench a quarterback for a year or 2. But I'm going to go with Tetra McMillan here. I think they need to bolster that receiving core, even if Amari Cooper stays. Honestly, they need to help out the receiving core. So I'll take Tetra McMillan, and I think this is kind of for Cleveland, this is kind of a last gasp effort saying, Deshaun, this is it now. We're giving you a true X receiver. We've given you enough before. This is it. If you can't do it now, you will never do it. I'm already really pessimistic on him ever doing it. I know he had a good game this past week, but Deshaun Watson, by all accounts, has been an abject disaster for them in that trade and how much they paid him. So I would have liked a quarterback here. I just don't love one in the top 5. And I think Tetra or McMillan, they need help in that receiving core. I'll go with McMillan here at number 5 overall.
All right. Okay. Still no quarterbacks.
Nope.
All right, I'm changing it. Tennessee Titans need a quarterback. I think these are the facts. We've seen Will Levis with the turnovers the first 4 weeks. Mason Rudolph came in and won the game for them Monday and not putting up a whole lot of stats. They need a quarterback. Brian Callahan needs a franchise quarterback for this team. And the question is, which one? I mean, look, Trevor has Jalen Milroe, the highest on his board right now. At times we've seen Carson Beck. We've seen some other guys. And they're all they're all different types of quarterbacks in this class too. But I think the one that is the most ready right now, and the guy that I think right this minute is the best quarterback. I need to see more out of Milroe. It was a great game he had against the Blitz against Georgia. A huge step, that specific thing against the Blitz. But I think the guy most ready right now is Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to send him to Nashville in this version of this. He's in a clean pocket. We know he's spectacular. I think Callahan could see Sanders as a similar type of passer to Joe Burrow when he was with the Bengals. I think it's a similar type of thing. Quick rhythm, so accurate, can make plays on the move, doesn't necessarily have to. He's going to improvise to throw. I think he's the smartest quarterback in the country, and that's the part that gets me. I think he processes and he sees the field and he sees defenses better than anybody else in this class. He shows it week in and week out for Colorado, where there's obviously a boatload of pressure, not surrounded by a whole lot of run game, and he just gets it done. He just constantly is making the right throw, gets it done. The sacks are down this year. I know the pass protection's still shaky there, but he's not getting blamed for as many sacks as he did last year. He's such a good rhythm passer. He's so accurate. I think this is the guy that Brian Callahan would want here, just for how fundamentally well he plays the position.
I would agree with that. And honestly, I was just going to say, they already took a swing on Will Levis a couple years ago. This is less of a swing. This is not a toolsy guy. This is not like the guy that you're like a high ceiling but a low floor. I think this is a high floor quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. And I was literally just going to say, I'm sure Brian Callahan's going to say, hey, this could be my Joe Burrow. This could be my Joe Burrow in Tennessee. So that makes a lot of sense. I really like that pick too. The Tennessee at number 6. Carolina here at number 7, also needing a quarterback because the Bryce Young time there has not gone well at all. So I'm going to be looking at quarterback here. I'm between a few right now. Jalen Murrow obviously has the highest ceiling out of all of them, but I still think there's kind of a low floor there. I don't know if you're Carolina, if you want to be going for that. So I'm probably not taking Milrow here. I'm really between Cam Ward and Carson Beck. I think Ward has played a lot better this year than Carson Beck. Beck obviously had that horrible first half against Alabama, but he rebounded really nicely in the second half. I think I'm going to go with Cam Ward because I think there's a higher ceiling there, and I think he's just really been impressive this year overall. So I'm going to go with Cam Ward, and I think he's kind of gotten rid of the bad habits that we saw plague him at Washington State and even Incarnate Word. So I'm going to go with Cam Ward here to the Panthers at number 7, but I was really much debating him and Carson Beck here.
I get it. I totally get it. I think actually either one would be a fine fit in Dave Canales' offense. I think either one could run them. I think Carson Beck, look, it's been a struggle. I think Georgia's finding their weapons. I think what he showed me in the second, everybody's focused on his stock falling after the first half against Alabama. I think Beck's stock, I think, stays pretty steady for the way he played in the second half, but Cam Ward's stock is skyrocketing. I mean, he's been so good. Still kind of the roller coaster against Virginia Tech, like we talked about.
But still had a solid game, though. Didn't let it compile. Like he ended up came back and,
What he is, too, is he's one of the few quarterbacks in the country who could just will your team to a win. I think Shedeur's in that boat. I think Milrow's in that boat. I think Carson Beck might still be in that boat. There's a handful of guys who can will your team to a win, and the Panthers need a guy like that. They need somebody like Cam Ward to come in and give him a jolt, because we've seen with Andy Dalton, when they get competent quarterback play, they're not that bad.
No.
They have weapons. Deontay Johnson, I know they have to sign him after the year, but Xavier Legette's coming on now. They've got guys they can work with, and wait till we get Jonathan Brooks healthy, and their offensive line is playing well. So there's a lot of pieces there in Carolina. They're not as bad as people think they are, but they do need a quarterback. All right. The Rams at 8.
There's a clear pick, I think.
Yeah, if it's the same one you're thinking, I think I'm with you. With the 2 tackles off the board, right?
Yep.
Look, the Rams last year were dead last in coverage grade. Right now they're 29th. I've got an elite football player at the very top of this board. I have to take Will Johnson.
Yep.
If Will Johnson ever fell to the Rams, they'd be jumping out of their shoes. Look, this secondary is a problem. The front 7 looks good, honestly. Kobe Turner, Jared Verse is off to a great start. Braden Fisk is coming on. Replacing Aaron Donald was the hard part, and it appears as a unit they've kind of done it, but their secondary needs so much work. But to get a foundational player like Will Johnson in there, been the best corner cover in the country for 2.5, going on 3 years already. Everything. You compare him all the time to Patrick Surtain. The Rams need a Patrick Surtain type of presence in this secondary, and that'll go a long way in helping the back 7 on defense. This is an obvious pick. If this were to fall this way, I'm in on it with the Rams fixing their coverage.
Yeah, I'm with it too. I think that he is definitely the player I would go with here at number 8 overall. I think it's pretty obvious. And they haven't had a lockdown number 1 corner since like prime Jalen Ramsey, honestly, when LA had him a few years ago. So they desperately need help in that secondary. I think Will Johnson should be a top 5 pick, and he somehow fell all the way here to 8. I think, like you said, they should be jumping for joy with this pick. So that makes a lot of sense there to the Rams at 8. I have the Cardinals here at 9. Dawn, I'm actually, so listen, Trevor Sikkema, I'll say right now, I'm not being biased, he is the best draft analyst in the business. However, I disagree with his order of the defensive tackles in this draft. I will be taking Deion Walker over Kenneth Grant. Right now on the PFF big board, Kenneth Grant is the number 7 overall player. Deion Walker's number 31. I personally think that Deion Walker is too much of an alien. And also, Deion Walker has not been that bad this year. So I was actually at that Georgia game. He did not look good at all in that game. But other than that, he's been solid. I think Kenneth Grant also has been solid this year. They haven't been spectacular or anything like that. So I'm going to stick to my guns in what I thought preseason and thinking Deion Walker and Mason Graham are the clear 2 best D tackles in the country. Deion Walker, 6'6", 340 pounds, 345 pounds. He interview with him. We actually interviewed Deion Walker. Check it out in our Deion Walker, I believe, preview episode we did preseason. He told me he can run a 4.640. At about 350 pounds.
Yeah, wait for the hype when we get there.
Which, if that happens...
Wait till we get to the combine and that happens.
If that happens,
all about it.
He's going top 10.
Yeah.
He is going top 10. He's not going number 31 overall like he is in the PFF big board. So, again, love Trevor. He's the best in the business. I usually agree with him on everything. But here I disagree with him a little bit. I'm going to take Deion Walker over Kenneth Grant here to the Arizona Cardinals, who desperately just need dudes on that defensive line. And I think Deion Walker could be a space eater and also a really, really good penetrator for them on that defensive line. So I'm thinking Deion Walker over Kenneth Grant for the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm with you. When he's on, there are flashes of Chris Jones.
Yeah.
That's the way he's built with the length and the size and everything and the moves and everything like that. When he is on, He could actually, to be honest, the ceiling is best defensive player in this draft.
Yep.
We just have to see it.
And I love Kenneth Grant too, but I just think there's a
great
ceiling.
player.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get to Grant here at some point in a little bit here. Maybe even in a few picks, but no, Walker's ceiling is undeniable, absolutely. And we're going to hear the second he goes and runs a 4.6 or 4.7 at the combine.
Oh yeah,
it's going to blow up to this level of hype.
I mean,
I get that,
and we'll be debating them with Mason Graham too.
And the Cardinals need to take a swing like this.
Yeah.
They do. They need talent on their defense. They need to take a swing. All right, we got a big one here with the Giants.
Yep.
They're playing better. Malik Neighbors has given them a jolt. Their defensive line's really good. But the obvious is the obvious, right? And I know Daniel Jones was good last week against Dallas. The big question here is Brian Daboll staying?
Yep.
Is Daniel Jones staying? I think the second one is less likely. We'll see about Daboll. But either way, for as many other things as I could go with, if it's a right tackle somewhere here, maybe even in the secondary need some help. I think Malachi Starks wouldn't be a bad fit here after losing Xavier McKinney, although they do have Tyler Nubin. But I'm going to make the talent play at quarterback.
Have to.
Because you know what sticks out to me is back-to-back in a 2-day span, watching Jalen Milroe make freak throws, and he does it every week on Saturday, and watching Daniel Jones, even though he played well, just going 1 for 6 on deep balls against the Cowboys, and I just need more. I need Jalen Milroe's arm and Malik Neighbors' speed together. I'm going Jalen Milroe. I don't know who the coach will be. I don't know if this is how it'll shake out or if Milroe's a guy they'll prefer. But to go from Daniel Jones, who is a decent athlete, but the arm strength, maybe it's always been like that, but it's just not. We're missing a level of explosiveness now. We have it at receiver with Neighbors, but we don't have it with the quarterback, right? And now you have it with Milroe, plus the mobility. And if what he did against Georgia is real, and he got rid of the ball on time better than he ever has, and he beat the blitz better than he ever has, now you're talking about a freak prospect. Because that was the thing we kept talking about. How do you beat Jalen Milroe? Just blitz the hell out of him, right? Georgia did that. I think it was like 65% of the time that Kirby Smart sent blitzes, and Milroe beat it. And I think against a blitz, he was it 17 for 20, we said?
Yeah, 17 for 20.
It was 17 of 20 against the blitz.
91 grade,
That's brand new. That's like the Stroud thing with the Georgia game improvising, where it was like, oh, that's brand new. If he does that, we're in some territory here. I'm going to take the talent swing for the Giants here at quarterback. Give me Jalen Milroe.
Not only do I love this pick, Dalton, because they need to do this, but if Brian Daboll is the head coach there, which I think he deserves more than just this year, because he didn't draft Daniel Jones. He was stuck with him. Who was Josh Allen's offensive coordinator when Josh Allen made the leap into superstardom?
It's Brian Daboll.
It was Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for tools...
And I have compared Malik Neighbors to Stephon Diggs a lot.
Yeah. And if you're looking for tools, Jalen Milroe has a tool. So that's why I love this pick. I think it's better than a Carson Beck pick for them, because Beck is just who he is, honestly. Milroe, there's something more there, which is why he's the number 1 quarterback on PFF's big board by Trevor Sikkema right now. There's something more there. And if there's any coach that is proven that he can unlock those tools from a pretty raw quarterback, he did it with Josh Allen. I think he could do it with Jalen Milroe as well. So I love that pick for the Giants at number 10 overall. All right, the Indianapolis Colts here.
This one's obvious.
At number 11, it's got to be Benjamin Morrison, right?
Yeah,
it's got to be Benjamin Morrison. They desperately need help at corner. I really like Ben Morrison this year. He's been solid, again, to start the season so far. Nothing spectacular, but I think he's a really, really good lockdown corner, and I think Indianapolis is desperate in that secondary right now. And I'd almost think that they should be taking a corner no matter where they are, honestly, in the first round of the draft. So I'm taking Benjamin Morrison here to the Indianapolis Colts. I think they really, really need help in that secondary. They've been beat up in that secondary too, but even when they're healthy, they still aren't a great cornerback unit overall. So I think Ben Morrison here is the pretty obvious pick for the Indianapolis Colts.
Absolutely. Kenny Moore is a great player in the slot, but they are just struggling. They've been struggling for years on the outside. Morrison he's so fundamentally sound in coverage. Yeah. I just love the way he plays in coverage. He's so fluid. He fights to the football. Could use a little bit of work on his tackling, but when you can cover like that, I don't even care. Take him and run the card up to the podium.
There's one here at Dawn at 12 I think is there's a player here on the big board that would fit a need for the Chargers, and the head coach of the Chargers once called this player God's gift to football. Or will you be taking him here at number 12 overall?
This is one of the hardest picks.
There's 2 Michigan players that kind of fit this, actually.
They do, actually. But the problem is, for me, there's 2 other players sitting here that I think higher on the board than Colston Loveland. I don't think I could reach for Colston Loveland in this scenario.
What about Kenneth Grant?
God's
gift to football,
think so
according to
either.
Jim Harbaugh.
I think the Chargers have to go offense here.
Okay.
I will be honest with you. I am between Luther Burden, and Ashton Jeanty.
I think you got to go Burden just for value, positional value. I think. I know what you're getting at.
Ashton Jeanty in this offense.
And also, don't screw yourself for the 14th overall pick with the Dallas Cowboys either. So that's just a layup too.
It's a thought. It's a thought. It's a thought. This is really hard.
Harbaugh's gonna love Jeanty.
Ashton.
Jeanty.
Let's just throw this scenario out there, okay? Even if I don't pick him, Ashton Jeanty with Harbaugh and Greg Roman coaching.
Yep.
With Alton Slater and that offensive line, the way they're playing when they're healthy, and the amount that they want to run the football. Ashton Jeanty. This is the part to me where I go, Ashton Jeanty might set records. LaDainian Tomlinson type records if he went to the Chargers. It's the part that it makes me think about. I go, do they make this statement and go full tilt? And I know J.K. Dobbins has been good, but he's off the injuries, and we don't know yet that he's a full season workhorse back. We kind of know that Jeanty is. This is hard. But then they're very short at receiver. Ladd McConkey is their best receiver right now. I don't think there's any debate about that.
Yeah.
Did Harbaugh ever draft a running back high with the Niners? I don't think he did.
I'm trying to think because he inherited Frank Gore.
And I think he had Kendall Hunter. He took in like the second or third round.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. This is tough. I'm very 50-50 on this, but I'm gonna lean in on the receiver. I think they can manufacture the run game the way that they block it. I'll take Luther Burden here, and we start making a core of receiver with Luther Burden, Ladd McConkey, and even Quentin Johnston, who's playing better this year, better than he did last year, right? I think what Luther Burden adds in their passing game, because right now I do watch the Chargers even in their wins, and I go, man, they're getting nothing out of their passing game. And the idea was, okay, we have Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert together now. I'll go with Burden. I think that's the number one type of guy that they need. And then McConkey complements it, and Johnston gets downfield. We'll start getting Justin Herbert rolling too. We'll find running backs later in the draft. It's a stacked running back class.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think what will happen, though, I could see Harbaugh just taking Jeanty and being like, we're going full Michigan right now, which I would understand. But
that'd be fun.
It would be. I could also see Kenneth Grant being the pick there. And I'm also debating Kenneth Grant here at 13 to the New Orleans Saints because I think the offensive line has played a lot better. I think they could still use help on the interior, but there's not an interior lineman here I would take at 13 overall. So I'm looking at a couple guys here. I'm looking at a guy like Kenneth Grant because their D tackles are not good right now. I'm looking at guys like Nick Scorton, James Pierce Jr. at edge defender as well because also they can use help at edge. I think D tackle's a bigger need, and I like Kenneth Grant a lot. I think
you want one piece to convince you on that. I believe if he's not number one, he's in like the bottom three. Brian Brzee in the middle there. I believe he has the lowest run D grade of any D tackle in the league right now.
Yeah, he's struggling.
It's a problem. He's a decent pass rusher, but you're absolutely right when you say they're struggling on the interior and run defense.
Yeah, Nathan Shepard has not played well either. Yeah. Like I think they have more at edge. I think edge is a really big need for them too. But I'm going to go with the highest ranked player on PFS Big Board right now. That is Kenneth Grant for defensive lineman at least. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant here to New Orleans. I think their biggest need is at D tackle, and according to Trevor, the best D lineman available is a D tackle. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant here to the Saints.
It's reasonable. I got to be honest with you. I absolutely would have thought about him for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because of all the things they need on their team, they need that the most. They need a Kenneth Grant who can just plug holes and so they don't get gashed in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have necessarily an offensive lineman in this range. I could reach Ariante Ursary. Probably not. There's not really any. They need.
You got to do it.
It feels like, even though that's an incredibly talented player at the top there, but the Cowboys don't need secondary help, even though the secondary hasn't played great.
Brandon Cooks is probably gone too. Like Isaiah Bond could be a nice ancillary piece for them. But I think you got to go Jeanty, right? You got to do it.
It's Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, Jerry's going to take Ashton Jeanty if he's here.
It's Ashton Jeanty. Yeah. They just look, as much as the Cowboys' run D has been a story, their lack of rushing on offense and just the lack of any sort of balance on offense is a huge problem. I mean, look, you look at their running back room, Rico Dowdle, Zeke Elliott, Deuce Vaughn, Dalvin Cook. There's nothing in their running back room right now, and you have a guy like Jeanty sitting there who might be a generational running back prospect. I know we hear that once every few years, but this is a freak of nature. I mean, he might set all sorts of records this year. What he's doing, he might carry Boise State to the playoff. It just feels too obvious. And the Cowboys have other needs. If Kenneth Grant was on the board still, I would have thought a lot harder about this, but there's not another player at a position the Cowboys need where I go, oh, yeah, absolutely. Jeanty's the guy here in Dallas.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Okay. Next up is Chicago Bears. I think they really need help on the O-line, but I don't. We interviewed Ariante Arcery, awesome guy. I don't know if I would take him here at 15 overall for them, although I'm really debating it for them. But I'm going to look elsewhere. I think you still use help on the edge and interior defensive line, so I'm going to go there. I think. Because I think Montez Sweat's a really good player, but outside of them, they don't really have too much. They have the 11th worst run defense grade right now in the NFL, and they're okay, they're doing pretty good as a pass rushing team at least. But I think run defense is where they have struggled this year. So I'm going to go with the best run defending edge at the top of this big board right now, which I think is Nick Scorton. I think James Pierce Jr. has a little bit of a higher ceiling than Scorton, and I still like Pierce a lot, even though it's been kind of a slow start to him this year. But Scorton is just an all-around better player right now, I think, than James Pierce Jr. He's a really good pass rusher, really good run defender. I think Scorton would be a pretty easy pick here for Chicago, just because I think he brings an element in that run defense they really need right now. So I think Nick Scorton here to the Bears makes a lot of sense.
I think it makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. I think the Bears, their secondary is spectacular. I think they could use still a little more help in run defense, like you mentioned. I think that is a good pick for sure. I think you put him across from Montez Sweat, and you got some depth guys in there too. DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker, who's played well early in his career, especially in the preseason. I think Scorton, though, that's a dimension where, I think last year when you talk about they had a shot maybe to take Jared Verse or somebody like that if they wanted to. This year they do it. That's solid stuff right there. I can't hate that, getting the Bears defense even better. Still got to work on the offensive line, but maybe that's a second-round thing in this scenario. Packers. I think there's a value play here. Look, the Packers, they signed Xavier McKinney. I know they still need some more help on the offensive line. They signed Xavier McKinney, and he's been great. I think they get the second piece here in their secondary at safety with Malachi Starks. Look, you get the best safety in this draft down at 16. You get to pair him with Xavier McKinney. To me, that immediately becomes the best pair of safeties in the NFL. Starks is a versatile piece. They got Javon Bullard in last year's draft, his former teammate, who's a versatile piece. I think McKinney is spectacular in Jeff Hafley's defense. He's mixed it up a little bit, too, from what he ran at Boston College. With all that single high he ran at Boston College, there's a little more mixing of coverages. Starks is so good, though. He's fifth overall on the board. He is a top 5 to 8 talent, and to get him at 16, I think, for the Packers at a position where they're still building. They got a lot of depth guys. They took, I think, 3 safeties in this past year's draft, but Starks is a superstar, and you can't. If you have Jair Alexander, you have Malachi Starks and Xavier McKinney and all these guys now in their secondary, that's a loaded group. I think it's too good a value play not to take Starks here.
Yeah, top 5 player on PFS Big Board right now, falling to 16. I know he's a safety, so he probably will fall a little bit, but that's a really good value for Green Bay at 16. And him and Xavier McKinney together would be lethal. Probably maybe the best safety duo in the league.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be incredible. San Francisco 49ers here at number 17 overall. I do not think they'll be this high on draft day. I think they'll figure it out as the season goes on and they get healthier. But there's some interesting players here for them. I'm probably looking at Ariante Arcery here. I think they really need help on the offensive line. Arcery is a guy that could use help at guard and tackle, and Arcery is a guy that I think if you need him to, could play guard in the NFL as well. He hasn't really done it too much in his career. He's been mostly a left tackle for the Golden Gophers, but he's a guy that we just interviewed, so check out that interview. And he's played really solid this year, honestly. He's actually improved a lot as a pass blocker after being the best run blocker, one of the best run blockers in college football last year. In fact, I think his run blocking grade last year was 3rd in the country, and the only 2 above him were Talisa Fuanga and Joe Alt, who were top 15 picks in the NFL draft. So he's a really good run blocker, and the pass blocking is actually coming along really nicely this year. He just came off a rough game against Michigan, but then again, anyone's going to look rough against Michigan. They might have 3 first-round defensive linemen on that defensive line. But yeah, I think Ariante Arcery here will fit a big need here for the 49ers, and I think they're probably really going to be targeting offensive line in this draft. So I think Arcery makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, he does. He's wicked athletic, former track and field guy, like he talked about, super strong. His shoulders are unbelievable. The way when he gets extension on guys, it's crazy. I think in this scheme, move him over to right tackle. Maybe he takes over eventually on the left side for Trent Williams. I think that's a great pick. I think the Niners in the offensive line, their pass protection too, is still the biggest question for me as to whether or not they can win the Super Bowl. But you make a pick like this to move him over to right tackle and then figure it out from there. I think it's a great pick. Baltimore here at 18. Similar thing. There's one thing for me that's holding Baltimore back from winning a Super Bowl, and I think it's wide receiver. I think it's right now they have Zay Flowers and not much else, and they're relying on 2 good tight ends, which is great. And if Derrick Henry, obviously, if he runs every week like he did against Buffalo, they're not going to have a whole lot of issues. But to me, they get to the playoffs, and every year this happens, they don't have enough wide receivers. There is a guy sitting right there at the top with possibly 4.2 speed that can take the top off and make you get out of single high against the Ravens. I have to take Isaiah Bond here for Baltimore. I think it's the biggest weakness on their team outside of Zay Flowers. I think they need a vertical burner like this. They need depth at receiver. They need a home run hitter, guy who can take safeties out of the box. Isaiah Bond is the guy for them.
Yep. I think that's a great pick. That's exactly what I would have done for the Ravens as well. So Isaiah Bond, highest ranked player on the board, and fits a big need for Baltimore as they need another guy opposite of Zay Flowers, obviously. Philadelphia here, I'm really between two players. I'm between Abdul Carter and James Pierce Jr. for the Eagles because I think they could use help at edge. I think I still like Pierce more than Abdul Carter, even though Carter's higher on the big board and Carter's coming off an unreal performance.
I don't think there's a wrong pick here.
No,
if
I don't.
I might be real with you. And the way the Eagles take trench players and make them always work, I don't think either one would be a wrong player. I think you have your pick of the litter here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with James Pierce Jr. He's a guy that we had number 1 overall in our first mock draft back in April or May actually. I think James Pierce Jr. I'm still sticking with him. He's been kind of slow to start the year, but I think there's still a lot there with him. So it's close between him and Abdul Carter for sure, but I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr. here to the Eagles at number 19.
It's good stuff. I think if you got a player with his level of talent at 19, you'd be absolutely living. You'd be awesome.
You get your Jets now at 20. This worked out.
I didn't even realize before we did this that that's what I get. Jets have more issues than people think. Their defensive line is very thin. Mike Williams only on a 1-year contract. Could think about a receiver here. There's 2 guys I'm looking at here for sure. Well, you know what? 3 guys I'm looking at here. We getting Aaron Rodgers? We getting another year Aaron Rodgers?
I think so. Probably. It'd be weird if he retired that for this year. I'd be a little surprised. But you could develop a guy though behind him if you wanted to. I don't know if you.
Not that. I'm not going that route. Jordan Travis, calm down. There's 2 guys that I really like.
Ibuka would be fun. I was looking at
Ibuka would be fun.
Loveland would be good.
Kevin Winston would be fun to fill in at safety because they're kind of average at safety. You want to go with a weird pick? Give me Colston Loveland.
Love it.
Let's go Colston Loveland.
I love it.
Let's get the Jets a tight end. Let's get him. And Tyler Conklin's good, and I don't know if he's got another
Let's
year.
get Colston Loveland a quarterback, too.
Let's get Colston Loveland a quarterback in an offense that opens it up a little bit. I think Aaron Rodgers would really like Colston Loveland for just 1 year, and then he's a guy who, if he's as good as we think he is, he could be one of the best tight ends in football. The Jets could be working with whatever future quarterback they could be working with. Could have Colston Loveland, maybe Garrett Wilson, maybe Breece Hall, long-term, all of that. I think it adds another dimension, and I think you've seen if Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett and whoever are to all stick around for another year or two, Rodgers had a lot of success running some 2 tight end sets and doing some things there. Loveland looks better as a run blocker this year, and you and I both think he's by far the most talented tight end in college football. I'll take Loveland for the Jets here, add another weapon for their offense.
So we got Colston Loveland, a quarterback. Let's get a quarterback for Brock Bowers right now. We're going to take Carson Beck here to the Las Vegas Raiders.
I think we didn't even play on that. That works just perfect.
I was eyeing it the whole time, saying, okay, who's going to take a quarterback? Is there anyone? And I didn't see anyone, and this worked out perfectly.
I didn't even think about that. That's spectacular.
They needed to. They got to get a quarterback. And Carson Beck falling in their lap here at 21, I think is a steal. I love this fit for Las Vegas. And listen, with Devontae Adams now requesting a trade, there's an argument for a Emeka Egbuka or a receiver here because without Devontae Adams, they desperately need a receiver. But quarterback is a way bigger need because it's the most important position on the field, and you do not have a good quarterback right now in Vegas. So Carson Beck, I think you have to take him here. He's a high floor player. I think he's going to be a really solid player. He's going to really just be like a Jared Goff type of quarterback in the league where if you have a good team around him, he'll be really good. Jared Goff just went 18 for 18 on Monday Night Football. But if your team's not great around him, then he might not look so great. So Vegas really, after taking Carson Beck, should be attacking the offense after this. But I think Carson Beck here at 21 is too much value for them, and they need to find a quarterback. Antonio Pierce is not going to have that many more years if he cannot find a quarterback, and I think Carson Beck here is the obvious pick for them.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I don't think you could have done much better there than Beck, and I know he's moved down the board a little bit right now, but you look at a team that needs a quarterback and a guy who, with Bowers, a familiarity, and yes, if they're going to trade Adams, But they're gonna get some significant draft capital back, and we're seeing this every year. There's more and more receivers that come out in the draft. They can find more receivers. They took Troy Franklin. They still have Cortland Sutton. They still want to run the ball. And sorry, I'm moving ahead to Denver. Sorry, I should say they still have Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer and guys like that. I just think you're talking about a team that isn't that far away.
Yeah. If they lose Devontae, they got to move to like 22 personnel as like their default offense, right?
For now, yeah.
Or like 12 personnel.
Yeah, but then you go and find maybe even in the later rounds in this draft. I mean, you take some. There's a lot of good receivers in this year's draft. Still, I mean, every year this wide receiver thing, it's like, man, there's 4 rounds worth of guys who can be productive. So I'm with you with them trading Adams, get draft capital, take Carson Beck. I even wonder with Adams if there's a scenario where he could do like a first-round pick swap or something, but it's hard. It's hard to do during the year. So, I just think that's a good move. I think Carson Beck getting back with Brock Bowers, that's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Now I get to Denver because I was getting ahead of myself here. Look, I need weapons. I think now this pick is pretty obvious. When I look at it, Denver right now lowest graded offense in football, lowest receiving grade in football, struggling to get the ball down the field. Let's take a guy at wide receiver who can help us, who's having a bounce-back year after kind of a tough year last year. He looks 100%. He looks like he's got that burst back. I'll take Emeka Egbuka for Denver at 22. I just think they need – now I get ahead to Cortland Sutton and whatever else and Troy Franklin, what I was getting at, because I was getting ahead of the pick. I was like, I already know what I'm doing now. But, they needed this. They need weapons. They need to get Bo Nix some help all around on offense. Look, they've won the last 2 weeks, but they really won on defense. Get Nix some weapons. Keep improving this offense. Give him options out there. Sean Payton can keep working with it. I think Egbuka fits right in, and Denver starts right away.
That's a perfect pick because they need more receivers. And Troy Franklin weirdly has not played that much. I know he's kind of a developmental player, but it's like, I don't know. So they need some more. And Emeka Egbuka, as Franklin's a high ceiling guy, Emeka Egbuka is a high floor guy. That is a guy that's immediately just going to get open for Bo Nix. Also, Bo Nix, the guy who loves to attack underneath. That's Emeka Egbuka. He's going to win in short intermediate. I think this is one of the best fits in the entire draft, honestly, is Emeka Egbuka to Denver. So nice job there.
Are you doing it here?
I'm sprinting this card in. Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter's an Atlanta Falcon. If I'm Atlanta, I'd be sweating this entire draft, hoping that he falls here to them at 23. Abdul Carter is so clearly a Falcon. They have not had an athletic pass rusher like Abdul Carter, and God knows how long. It has been like a decade of Atlanta not having a good pass rush, it feels like, honestly. So Abdul Carter, high ceiling player, freak athlete, really had a slow-ish start to the season, exploded against Illinois, and they're 2 really good offensive tackles. He's a guy that's just learning how to play edge defender now. He's obviously played off-ball linebacker in his first 2 years at Penn State. Now he's playing edge defender full-time, a lot like the Micah Parsons thing, even wears the same number as Micah Parsons at Penn State. Abdul Carter is that's the pick you have to make if you're Atlanta. There's no other option on the board. Listen, if you like Mykel Williams more, fine, but I think it's not even close. I think Abdul Carter should be the pick here at 23.
That's a freak show, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's so good. It's ridiculous. The level of athleticism, it goes without saying how good he is. Detroit, is this Detroit here at 24? It is.
Yep.
This is tougher because they don't have a ton of weaknesses on their team.
I kind of like another edge opposite of Hutchinson here.
Yeah, I was having that thought.
And you know who is a Dan Campbell guy? He's gonna love Jack Sawyer.
I had that thought. I was like,
he would love Jack Sawyer.
There's a lot of options here. Look, Kevin Winston would be a great option for them. I think Danny Stutzman would be a good option for him.
He would love Danny Stutzman.
They've already gone linebacker in the first round once. I think Takario Davis would be a good option for them. But it was a name that I was looking at it while you were talking about the Atlanta pick, and I was like, man, Jack Sawyer. I know you got one Michigan guy teeing off on one side, Ohio State guy on the other, and DJ Reed in between them, and isn't it freaky? Aiden Hutchinson is really their only legit edge player. Has 40 pressures in 4 games. It's just silly how good he is. I'm kind of, the more I think about this, I'm kind of in on it. I love Jack Sawyer as a player. First of all, as fundamentally sound as any player in the country, especially in run defense. His run D tape is a coach's clinic tape. You could show it at coach's clinics and be like, this is how you play the run.
Which Campbell's going to love.
He's going to love that. He's a physical player. Is he as gifted as Hutchinson? No, that's why he's
Mykel Williams even,
even as Mykel Williams. But Jack Sawyer is just such a good football player. That's the best way I can put it. He's so fundamentally sound. Yeah, he's working on secondary moves and pass rush arsenal and stuff like that, but he's just so good. There are very few higher floor guys in this draft to me than Jack Sawyer. I actually like that idea. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with Jack Sawyer and put him across from Aiden Hutchinson.
Love it. This
isn't easy. There's one of two players you have to take here.
Takara is one of them, right?
Yeah, it's either Takario or Winston here. Whichever one you want, because Dan Quinn would love them both.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, Michael Williams is also on the board, but I like Takario more than Michael Williams.
They just now,
and they need a tackle too, but I would not take a tackle.
It was better. It was better against the Cardinals, but they can't cover. That it has to me, unless you and it's Siobhan Ravel tore his ACL. That obviously sucks.
No, I still Takara is a better version of Siobhan Ravel even without the torn ACL.
I think this one you take one or two.
I'm gonna go with Takario Davis. I'm gonna go with him. I think he is obviously freak show at corner. Has had, like you see, there's a grades right there. Rough-ish start to the year, but then that Utah game, I mean, that grade doesn't even tell the whole story. I think he's a lot better than that grade would indicate. I mean, he was a really good game against Utah. So I like Takario Davis here. He's a guy who's a bigger corner at 6'4", 190. So it'll be a nice change of pace from Emmanuel Forbes, who obviously is one of the smallest corners in the NFL right now. And I think, yeah, like I said, they've really struggled to cover right now. I would like a tackle here if there was one. I think Wyatt Milam is really quickly becoming a first-round caliber player. I actually was watching his West Virginia tape a week ago, and he looked awesome. But I don't know if I would take him here over Takario Davis when they desperately need a corner as well. So I'm going to take Takario Davis here to the Commanders here at 25.
I dig it. I think it's a great pick. I think between him and Winston, it would have been a great pick. I've got an interesting one here with Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I really think they need help in their front seven.
Is it Michael Williams?
I just don't know if it's Michael Williams though. Does he? Because it feels to me a bit redundant to Ed Oliver, and I'm trying to figure out now with the Bills. There's a weird player here that sticks out to me that I don't know if he would go in the first round. The Bills, I'm looking at this now, between Matt Milano's injuries and all of that, they so badly need a linebacker.
Oh, is it Stutzman?
Danny Stutzman vibes with Bills Mafia vibes.
Oh, yeah.
It almost makes too much sense. It's just a matter of do I really think Stutzman's going first round?
Do they need safety?
That's the other thing I'm questioning too as I go Taylor Rapp.
Something else I will also say.
Yeah.
The Bills need a receiver. They've got Keon Coleman and then Shakir, and there doesn't really seem to be a lot else.
You go Alec.
I think a guy like Alec would be really interesting for them.
That's kind of redundant to Keon Coleman,
but I also don't see it as their biggest problem. That doesn't concern me as much. I think they could figure that out as they go because Allen's that good. I think their front seven as it currently is the biggest reason I can't pick them to win a Super Bowl. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for the vibes. I'm going to go with Stutzman.
Do it.
I just think this is one where the Bills are unpredictable because they very well, I think Eli's right. You could go at receiver. You could go. I think Kevin Winston would be a great value play there. I won't lie to you. He's a great football player. I'm shocked that he's gotten this low and he's going to go here. He's got to go in the next couple of picks here, right? I mean, he just has to because he's so good. But the Bills at linebacker with Milano's injuries the last 2 years and losing, they let Terrell Dodson go in free agency. It's the biggest problem on their team. I don't know if they have the lowest graded linebackers in the league, but it's probably close. I'll take Stutzman. I honestly don't. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know that Stutzman is actually going to go in the first round, but for the need thing and what we have on the board here, I'll go with Stutzman. I might have taken Harold Perkins if he didn't have the torn ACL, honestly.
I think I'm going to do Harold Perkins here at 27. Because I understand torn ACL is brutal, and that's a really tough look for him, but I think Mike McDonald having that kind of speed in the middle of his defense, and like I said, we've always said with Harold Perkins Jr., he needs to go to a defensive-minded coach who is going to use him properly, which means put him everywhere. Don't pigeonhole him as a linebacker. Don't pigeonhole him as an edge defender. Let him play everywhere. And I trust Mike McDonald is one of those coaches. I think he's one of the best defensive minds that we have in the NFL right now. I think he would love to have a guy like Harold Perkins in his defense who would be a full-time linebacker, but also as a situational pass rusher that could use help in that pass rush still. I think Harold Perkins Jr. is a guy that Mike McDonald, even with the torn ACL, would love in their defense. So I would still take him at 27 here to the Seattle Seahawks.
All right, I think I'm for Pittsburgh at, what are we at, 28?
Yep.
I think I'm between two guys. It's going to sound weird. But I'm between those first two guys on the board.
Okay.
I actually think, look, Cam Hayward is playing spectacular football. I think he's leading all defensive tackles in overall grade right now, but he's 35, 36 years old. The Steelers are one of the few teams that'll still get in a five-man front, that old 3-4 sometimes. And I do actually think that is the best fit for Mykel Williams.
You don't like Nick Herbig, though, and Alex Highsmith?
I do.
Are you putting it at
but
3-tech?
It's like the 5-tech thing.
Yeah.
It's this Cam. It's actually as the heir apparent to Cam Hayward.
I like that.
Not
Okay.
as the edge. No, he's not moving Watt and Highsmith anywhere off of the edge. I think very much like Darius Robinson last year, Mykel Williams is a tweener. I understand the potential. He's a really good run defender. He's got to work on the pass rush stuff. He's been hurt early in this season. He's got the talent. I think as develop him, and as whenever Cam Hayward retires, which he may never, as well as he's playing, he's got over a 90 grade right now at 35 years old. This is an idea for me where I go, you know what, Mykel Williams, learning from Cam Hayward and Mike Tomlin's defense and the way they still kind of sometimes go with a five-man front. Keanu Benton is a monster on the inside too. I think this is the right environment. This is a place where Mykel Williams, because we've talked about it. He is not anywhere near fully developed yet as a football player. He's got technique things to work on. I think Williams, I'm going to take Williams in Pittsburgh, and I think you do it with the idea that Cam Hayward's role is what it's going to be for him when Hayward leaves.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think Mykel Williams would be a guy that, again, Mike Tomlin would coach up well too, so I like that a lot. So Mykel Williams, 28 to the Steelers. 29 here is weird because the Texans don't really have too many holes, and clearly, as they're number 29 right now in the draft order. But I'm looking at a few options here. I think, Joe Mixon obviously is not a long-term answer, but I don't know if I would take Quinshon Judkins in the first round, even though he's the number 19 player on PFF's big board.
This is a team that could do it, though.
They could. They also need interior line really bad.
Do we have one?
Booker? Would you take Booker this high?
I don't know if we have Brails, where we have Brails.
Because Kenyon Green has not been good so far. And Shaq Mason's getting up there in age.
Yeah, I mean, you could take one of those Alabama guards and go that route. I don't hate that. I think you could take Judkins.
I could.
You could.
Two running backs in the first round.
I know, we're going to get fired from PFF.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
We would get fired.
Hampton, too, if you liked Amarion Hampton enough. A lot of mileage, but.
Should I do it? I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do Quinshon Judkins.
Oh, boy, now we're in trouble.
We're legitimately.
I took one, and you took one to each get one running back.
This is the last PFF college football show. We're going to get fired immediately after this.
Two first-round backs. Oh, boy.
But I think Quinshon Judkins is special. And I think in this kind of draft, there's not really that top-end talent. You just got to take guys that you think are really, really good football players. I think Quinshon Judkins is exactly that. So I'm taking Quinshon Judkins here to the Texans, who could use help at running back. Joe Mixon's not a long-term answer there at all, even though I know they paid him a lot of money. Dameon Pierce has seemingly been forgotten about in Houston. I think Quinshon Judkins with C.J. Stroud, with Nico Collins, with Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell, just get another star offensive player there. And there's not really an interior alignment I love here at 29, so I'm going to take Quinshon Judkins to the Texans at 29.
Okay. All right, the Bucs at 30 right now. I don't think they'll end the year at 30, but you never know. They're 3-1. They're playing well. We'll see. But if they ever got this guy, they would probably take him before 30. And if they ever got him at 30, I think Todd Bowles would run to the podium to take Kevin Winston.
Okay.
I just this is the type of player he likes to have around. A guy, he's aggressive. He's a sure tackler. He can do all sorts of things as a safety. Jordan Whitehead is there on a short-term contract, but you pair. And we mentioned best pair of safeties in the league before with McKinney and Starks. Antoine Winfield and Kevin Winston.
That might be it.
That's right up there, too.
Yeah.
I think just what he brings, what him and Winfield would bring to their defensive backfield and all the things Todd Bowles can do with them. I think if Kevin Winston was on if the Bucs were at 20 and Kevin Winston was on the board, he might run the car to the podium.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think to put him next to Winfield is that's nasty work in the Bucs secondary. I absolutely think he would do it.
Yep. Yeah, I like that a lot. So I'm going to go. So I have the Minnesota Vikings here. I'm going to go with I think they need. I'm between an edge or a corner, but I think I'm going to go with Siobhan Ravel. I think he has a rare blend of size and speed, and I think that in Brian Flores' defense, he's going to prioritize that, and they need a lockdown corner. Ravel still has a lot to work on. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people are, it seems like.
Man-to-man coverage, though, he can certainly do that. I think, and you get Mekhi Blackman back from injury next year. He tore his ACL in the preseason. Man-to-man coverage, Siobhan Ravel can do that, and Brian Flores likes to use it.
I was literally just going to say, I think this fits the defense, the man-to-man man-heavy defense that Brian Flores employs. So I'm going to go Siobhan Ravel here. I know he also, like Harold Perkins, is coming off a season-ending torn ACL. So hopefully he's healthy enough to wow people at the Combine. Because I think this is a guy that will wow people at the Combine if he's healthy to run and participate in drills. But even if not, I still think this fits a need for Minnesota. And also I think this fits the defense that Brian Flores loves to run. So I think Siobhan Ravel makes a lot of sense here at 31 to the Vikings.
I like that. All right, I'm finishing it off. Man, Chiefs at 32 again. It just keeps
repeat.
It's a constant. This is tough because their glaring kind of weaknesses are because of the Rashee Rice injury and Travis Kelce getting a little older. Like, honestly, here's what I'll tell you. If Colston Loveland were on the board,
sprint it
in. Just go with it. Now we got 15 more years of this. If Colston Loveland were on the board, that's absolutely what I would do.
I would go Alec Aymaner here, I think.
I don't know that you necessarily need to do that. If you're healthy, you have Rice and Worthy, and they always put it together.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's true. But without Kelce, if he does retire, which I think is more likely than people think, you get like a big body in there. You know, like they're Rice and Worthy, well, great. They're not big body pass catchers.
You know, I don't think Reed values those guys as much as people think he does. I mean, he values route runners. Not that Alec's a bad route runner by any means, but I think he would need like a supreme. Like if Ibuka was in this spot, I think he might take Ibuka.
So Emory Jones then maybe
or
some tackle or Wyatt Miley. I will say, dude, Wyatt Miley is balling right now. He's a guy I really think is going to go up on the board.
I still think they want to give Kingsley Suamataia his shot, though. It's weird because it's hard to pinpoint a specific. I don't think they would do a running back here either.
No, not a Marion Hampton. I think they really like Pacheco.
Oh, really, they do. Pacheco's awesome. Yeah, he's like a top 10 back in the league.
I don't think they would take Hampton. I don't think they would do that. Even though he's battling an injury right now, I don't think they would do that.
You know, let me. A couple of guys here stick out to me. I think I'm leaning in on defensive line.
Okay.
And I want to see where are the Chiefs, where are they struggling up front? They're kind of okay all the way around. We took George Karlaftis a couple years ago. You know what? Let me take the Cincinnati kid. Let's go Dante Corleone.
Ooh, okay.
Let's go with the Godfather.
Sneaking in the first round.
Beyond Chris Jones, Chiefs don't have a ton of defensive tackle depth. I think they have some guys off the edge. George Karlaftis is good, and I'm gonna go with Corleone and just go. You know what? He's really darn good. He's a solid pass rusher. He's an incredible run defender. This guy, you talk about plugging up the A-gaps. Dante Corleone can do it. It's a weird spot because I think right there for the Chiefs, the players that were near the top of the board, when you talk about, okay, they're not going to take a corner. They don't need corners or safeties, right? Edge player, you could. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that receiver. Maybe they could take another receiver, but I don't think they take another one after taking Worthy last year, and they just need Rice to get back healthy next year after did it get confirmed as a torn ACL? I think
actually, I think he avoided a season-ending injury somehow.
Really? They got it. Because I saw they were getting a second opinion. I didn't see
someone said like Patrick Mahomes is working his voodoo magic because somehow I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but I think a reporter said that Rashee Rice, it seems like right now, is not going to be out for the season.
I would say for the Chiefs, if wherever they are in this draft, that if Colston Loveland fell to them, that's who they're taking. And otherwise, I'll go in the trenches. Let's go with the Godfather at 32 there, Dante Corleone from right here in Cincinnati.
Yep. So Adam Schefter said that we do know he's going to miss an extended period of time, but we do not yet know if it's torn. Right now that there's optimism that it's not as severe as I thought it was going to be.
You know what's going to happen now. They're going to float until he gets back, and then he's going to get back in time for the playoffs.
Yep.
And here we go. That's exact, because Rashee Rice was honestly the best. He was their best offensive player. So when he was playing this year, that's going to happen. But anyway, solid. I think solid draft.
Solid draft. Yeah, first mock of the actual season so far. We're going to try to do this after every month of the football. So we're probably going to do this is a post-September mock. Obviously, we're going to do a probably post-October, post-November, post-December, whatever. And then once we get into the full draft season, we'll be doing a lot more of them. But let's go over our first round mock for our audio only listeners. Travis Hunter goes first overall to the Jaguars. Calvin Banks Jr. second overall to the Dolphins. Will Campbell to the 3 to the Patriots. Mason Graham 4 to the Bengals. Tedro McMillan to the Browns. Shedeur Sanders to the Titans. Cam Ward to the Panthers. Will Johnson to the Rams. Deion Walker to the Cardinals. Jalen Monroe to the Giants. Ben Morrison to the Colts. Luther Burden III to the Chargers. Kenneth Grant to the Saints. Ashton Ginty to the Cowboys. Nick Scorton to the Bears. Malachi Starks to the Packers. And then the second half of the mock draft, Ariante Ursary to the 49ers. Isaiah Bond to the Ravens. James Pierce Jr. to the Eagles. Colston Loveland to the Jets, Carson Beck to the Raiders, Emeka Egbuka to the Broncos, Abdul Carter to the Falcons, Jack Sawyer to the Lions, Takario Davis to the Commanders, Danny Stutzman to the Bills, Harold Perkins Jr. to the Seahawks, Michael Williams to the Steelers, Quinshawn Judkins to the Texans, Kevin Winston Jr. to the Buccaneers, Siobhan Ravel to the Vikings, and rounding it out with Dante Corleone, the Godfather, to the Chiefs. Before we go, Dawn, our producer Eli said he has a couple questions for us that he wanted to ask us about this mock draft. So Eli, fire away.
I thought some of the most interesting things in the draft, obviously there's a lot less interior offensive linemen than we've had in years past. But the two questions I have is, what is your favorite player team fit in the draft currently? It doesn't have to be one that we did, but it's one that you guys think you would like to see the most.
Ooh, good question.
Our favorite one?
Maybe not
your favorite.
Maybe not in this mock, he said, either.
Okay.
Anything that just in general that you would love to see.
Oh, Colston Loveland taking over in Kansas City once Kelsey retires. That just feels not fair already. I can already see the league just being so scared of that. I think if Loveland did ever end up in Kansas City, Mahomes will set he'll win 10, 12 Super Bowls. Yeah. I'm
going to go with the one that you did, Eli, at 4th overall. I think Mason Graham.
You want a need?
They need if the Bengals do end up this bad, which I'm not entirely sure they will be a top 5 worst team in the league. If they are this bad, though, this is the player they need more than anything else. And this defensive line has been horrible this year. And you get a guy like Mason Graham, who we think could be one of the best D-tackle prospects that we've seen in a very, very long time, maybe ever. I think that is a sprint the card in for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that is my favorite fit right now, because that is a guy that they desperately need. And all of a sudden, if you get a guy like Mason Graham in there, you go from a defensive line that you're very pessimistic about to be like, oh, no, they could actually be pretty good because they have a superstar potential player and Mason Graham on the interior. So I think Mason Graham to the Bengals is probably my favorite fit right now.
Okay, and then my last question is, what player do you think is too low on the big board currently? So I know you've already kind of talked about Deion a little bit, Max. Yep. I didn't know if there was someone else that you kind of thought.
Let me look.
Or same thing with you, Dalton.
That's a good question.
Right this minute, I'm looking through like second round guys right now. Hang on.
I'll go first if you have one.
Go ahead.
I think Carson Beck being low as he is, I don't agree with that from Trevor. And again, Trevor does an amazing job, but I just think Beck at 57 overall and QB 5 in this draft now, I think it's too much of an overreaction to that Alabama first half. I think he played a lot better in the second half. I do understand the concerns with Carson Beck, don't get me wrong, but I think Carson Beck is still a first-round caliber quarterback, and right now he's ranked as a late second-round prospect in the big board. So Trevor does a great job, and I agree with him on almost everything, but I think Beck at 57 is a little bit lower than what I would have him right now.
There's a guy I'm looking for that I am not seeing yet. Where is he? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you a guy for me. All the way down at 91 is Ashton Gelati from Louisville.
I knew you'd go there.
And he's a guy that I actually had as a, what is it? We had like our sleeper first round pick thing that didn't count against our thing back when we did guaranteed first rounders. I don't think Ashton Gelati's the 91st best player in this draft. I think he's spectacular. I think he's going to fit in. He may not put up like the most sacks in the country, but you watch that Louisville defensive line. First of all, the whole unit's spectacular. I think Ashton Gelati, I think that's at least the top 50, if not top 40 player that could work his way into the first round. The more people watch him and see his athleticism, how consistent he is, how balanced he is, I think Gelati's a guy who should be a lot higher than 91.
Eli, do you have a favorite fit from that first round mock we did, or is it the Bengals getting Mason Graham?
That's definitely a big one that I would like. I'm trying to go back. I mean, it's hard not to love Ashton to the Cowboys.
I was gonna say that one too. Yeah,
that's
such a good fit.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the one that I like. I mean, even though it's a running back, I mean, it's hard not to see a guy who's so productive and see such a weak spot in someone's team that I feel like the Cowboys are probably one of the best teams with such a glaring weakness, I would say.
Yeah.
Obviously, their run defense is horrible, but on their offense, that's pretty solid. I mean, they just have nothing out of the running back position.
I mean, they're starting Rico Dowdle. And I like Rico Dowdle. He's not a starting running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Zeke Elliott, the corpse of Zeke Elliott, they're trotting out there as well in Dallas.
And Ginty, although Ginty, if they were picking a little lower than 4, Ginty to the Bengals would be fun too. That'd be a fun one. But if I was throwing one more in there too, the amount that the Rams need Will Johnson is off the charts. That's the other one I'll throw in there too.
And Falcons getting Abdul Carter, I think, is one that they have to get.
You've been on that for months.
I think we actually did in our initial mock in May. I think we had Abdul Carter going to the Falcons even higher than that. But
it's a great pick either way. Yeah.
But is that it, Eli? Is that all the questions you got for us?
That is all I got.
All right, so that's all we got for the post-September mock draft. Again, we're going to try to do this every month or so as we continue to get updates throughout the NFL season, where this draft order stands and how these players stand. And obviously, guys are going to move up and down the board. So check out the PFF mock draft simulator at pff.com to do a full 5-round mock draft if you're a sicko and want to do that. And also look at the PFF big board made by the great Trevor Sikkema. Even though there's some players that we would have a little bit higher, a little bit lower, it's still the best big board in the business, made by the best draft analyst in the business in Trevor Sikkema. So for Dalton Wasson, for Eli Nagel, I'm Max Chadwick, and we'll see you guys soon for our Week 6